I can talk louder. So I am from Peterborough. So you'd think it'd be harder from Nicaragua, but it is 2 o'clock now, right now. So let us get this officially started. The great webinar you guys have all signed up for, Heart Healthy Recipes with Raw Food Chef Danielle Arsenault. Oh my goodness, yeah, so good to have you on this. I can't wait, it's gonna be so exciting. So I'm Dee Miller. I am a pro trainer with canfitpro. I am HWL, Healthy Eating and Weight Loss, and a number of other different certifications. So if there's anything you want to ask me questions about, please put them in the chat. Let's do a little bit of housekeeping. So this is a webinar, so everybody is muted and everybody's video is off. If you want to put something in the chat box, please do. Questions and answers, we're going to go through as many of them as we can. Also, so you know, during this session, it is being recorded. It's going to be on the canfitpro YouTube channel, so you can get back and look at it. And CECs are going to be available, which is the greatest thing, is because you can get your CECs for canfitpro through this webinar. So they'll be available tomorrow in your portal. So just have a look there tomorrow. That'll be fine. Also, we do have closed caption. So if you don't want that, that is enabled. If you don't want it, just go ahead and turn it off. You can see at the bottom where you can click it off. Okay. So today's session is going to be incredible. We know that this is February heart health, right? Danielle and I are, yes, big on heart health. So we want to bring more awareness or importance to cardiovascular health and what we can do to reduce our risk of cardiovascular disease. That's what this is all about. So this webinar will inspire you to create heart healthy recipes. I've tried a couple already because they look so good. I can't wait to share them with everybody. And at the end, we'll have about 10 minutes to answer questions. So please pop your questions into the chat and then we'll be able to answer as many as we can. Okay? So first of all, thank you for joining. Second of all, I can't wait to introduce you to Danielle Arsenault. Danielle is a certified raw food chef, plant-based nutrition educator, author of 6 cookbooks. Oh my God, I'm so jealous. Congratulations. TV show host, outdoor enthusiast, musician, mama. Congratulations. Founder of Pachavega Living Foods Education and the Raw Food Chef Alliance. Danielle co-hosts plant-based retreats and teaches raw food chef certificate courses throughout the year online and in Nicaragua. She is also the co-founder of Wanderlust Utopia, a conscious, sustainable, socially responsible, eco-modern retreat. Oh my God, can I just fly there right now and see you? It sounds so incredible. For yoga teacher training, wellness events, private functions on Ometepe, did I get it right? Island. Ometepe Island, where she resides half the year. With that, I'll pass it over. You guys are gonna love her. Danielle, take it over.
Thank you. So exciting to have everybody join me here and be part of this incredible webinar. It's my passion, deep passion, to share the power of food with people and also how easy it can be. You know, I know that some people think that changing their diet, eating differently can be overwhelming, but really, you know, if you can just start to include more of a variety of whole plants, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes, sprouts, pseudograins into your diet, then things will change. And these couple recipes that I'm going to show you are absolutely amazing. The first one is a bean-free chili. Now, beans are great. I think that beans definitely are part of a whole foods diet, but just for a change, something different, this chili has walnuts as a base. And walnuts are actually incredibly good for the brain. They're super high in omega-3 fatty acids. Well, actually, they have a more natural balance of omega-3 to omega-6. Unfortunately, the standard American diet today is more like a 1:20 ratio of omega-3 to omega-6. And that's too much because by nature, the omega-6, even though it's necessary, in excess, it can be inflammatory, whereas the omega-3s are anti-inflammatory, okay? So it's really important to include more omega-3s in our diet. We're already getting plenty of the omega-6. And we're trying to aim for a 1:3 ratio. So 1 omega-3 to 3 omega-6. So let me start the recipe. We also have the base of this recipe, this bean-free chili, are tomatoes. So tomatoes are heart healthy. They actually even look like a heart. They've got the different ventricles and sides of the tomato. And this is a concept known as the doctrine of signatures, that the food helps the body part that it represents. So tomatoes look like a heart and they help the heart. They're also high in lycopene, which is an antioxidant that's been proven to have anti-inflammatory effects. I'm gonna add onion, okay? Not only is onion delicious, it's heart healthy too. It has quercetin in it. So this is again an anti-inflammatory product that's in food that helps open the blood vessels, and everybody loves onion. So I'm just going to blend this really quickly. I said really quickly, just to get it started. The next thing that's in this amazing bean-free chili is sun-dried tomato. Okay, and sun-dried tomatoes depends on where you get them, but sometimes they pack the salt in sun-dried tomato. So try to get a version that's dry, that doesn't have the salt added. That's pretty important. Otherwise, you'll really have to adjust this recipe. Alternatively, if you just soak them and then rinse them out later, then you can get rid of a lot of the salt. But definitely pay attention to if your tomatoes have salt or not. So we're gonna add those. So I've soaked these prior because dried sun-dried tomatoes are quite hard. And if they're not soaked ahead of time, it'll really change the texture of the dish. Okay, I don't have the recipe in front of me, but hopefully I'll get it right. That's another thing that I love teaching, is really just to intuitively make food. So yes, there's a recipe, but it doesn't have to be followed exactly. And I think that's what the magic that exists in raw food, because you can always adjust. And so I always teach this concept of flavor balancing. So that onion provides an umami flavor, and so does the sun-dried tomato. Then we're gonna add walnuts. And as I mentioned, they're very good for your heart, but they're also good for the brain. And it's pretty cool because if you look at, I mean, I'm sure you've done this before, but if you look at the walnut, it looks like a little brain. And it's true, they help the brain. So because they're high in these essential fatty acids that are good fats, they can actually help lower LDL cholesterol. So that's pretty amazing. Let's add those. I should mention as well that these walnuts are technically what I call activated. You'll also hear them called sprouted walnuts. Now the walnuts will never actually sprout. They won't grow a little green piece, but they will become activated. By soaking them in water overnight, you release the enzyme inhibitors that exist to sort of protect it from going bad. And yeah, so it basically will, these little guys, when you soak them in water overnight, it releases enzyme inhibitors into the water. I highly recommend that you rinse them and discard that water because it just contains unhealthy enzymes. So now for some flavoring. We're gonna add some cumin. Cumin is one of the most used spices all over the world. And in fact, a lot of spices, they also have antioxidant properties, which is pretty amazing. So you can think of spices as health foods. Cumin and chili powder. Now, chili powder isn't a chili. It's actually a blend of spices. So if you've ever tried to find chili powder, you can actually make your own chili powder by putting those like spices together. And that includes, of course, cumin, chili flakes, okay? Also sometimes onion powder, garlic powder. So it has quite a robust flavor profile. All right. And we're just gonna add a little pinch of salt. Now, I always use pink Himalayan salt. This is high in minerals. It's much better for you than iodized table salt. Hopefully a lot of the people here are watching, you don't use iodized table salt. Unfortunately, it has iodine added. Now, 100 years ago, that was a good thing because people were iodine deficient. But nowadays, science is actually finding that it has potassium iodide, which actually can be harmful and in toxic quantities. So try to choose your salt more carefully. Pink Himalayan salt has the most minerals, but then also a high quality sea salt would be good as well. Okay, so that's all for this recipe, and I'm just gonna bust it up in the food processor for a minute. So this is up to you. It depends on how much texture you want. And a lot of people that make this recipe, especially my students, they look at the recipe and they think, oh, like that's all that's in it? Like, is it really gonna be that good? But it's surprisingly extremely delicious. The last thing that I wanted to add was some texture, okay? So that comes in the form of little pieces of carrot and celery. So carrot and celery are both really good for the body and also good for heart health. I've chopped it quite finely, and I've tried to keep them more or less in the same size. When you chop food in uniformity, you show that you care. There's some more mindful thinking when it comes to chopping. You're thinking mathematically. And yeah, this will provide that crunch, that texture that is really important in gourmet food, right? We have teeth for a reason, right? We want to chew, and so these beautiful vegetables allow that in our food. Okay. So I'm just gonna dump them in here, add that, and as I get this little bowl ready, like that's it, that's the recipe. Oh, but you know what I should have done? So important. Taste it. Oh, I can't believe I forgot that. That's like the very important thing. Now, although I've made this recipe many, many, many times, amazing. You know, though, I think it needs a bit more salt. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a little bit more salt. I'm going to add in the carrots and the celery by hand, and I'm going to plate this amazing dish. And while I do that, Dee, take it away.
Wow, that looks fabulous. I wish we could try it from here, but we do have the recipes, and everybody that's on this webinar right now can get the recipes. In fact, like I said earlier, I tried the next one you're going to do, the cashew sour cream, and it's like, oh my goodness, it is so good. So part of the healthy eating and weight loss coaching course that I teach and as part of canfitpro is so important. Right now, what we're really looking at is eating more vegetables. Vegetables are so important, and by adding the vegetables that you have, as well as the walnuts that are giving you the healthy oils, and you talked about the omega-3s, omega-6, 1 to 6 is so important, and all of the things that we can eat that can make us healthy while we're sitting at home in the pandemic. So that's fabulous. But other than vegetables, the number one thing we really need to look at, and we can get a lot of it from our vegetables, is water. Other than air, the most important nutrient our body needs is water. We can't live without it. So it's so important to get the water, but it's also so important that we can actually get more water into our bodies through vegetables. And that's what you're showing us. That is incredible. So with the healthy eating and weight loss course, we have what we call the pyramid of integrated nutrition. It basically shows us our must-haves, things that we might enjoy a little bit, and then things that we should really stay away from. Number one, water. We need that water. Water's our number one. Then we go to vegetables. And the other thing, oh, you've got the sour cream. I can see it. Let me just, hold on one second. Let me just explain vegetables and then plant protein and healthy fats. So with that, do you want to go ahead and explain what you have?
Yeah, sure. So I decided not to make the sour cream in front of you, only because I also have to use the Vitamix to make the avocado mousse. And I only have one container, and I already have to go rinse this one out. So instead I made it ahead of time because it's so easy. Really, all you have to do is soak your cashews overnight. you could, excuse me, you can also use macadamia nut. So either or, both are very heart healthy. Cashews overnight, macadamia nut overnight. Just as I mentioned, the enzyme inhibitors are released. So rinsing out your nuts before you use them, and washing them, rinsing them, and discarding that water. And then you put them in the Vitamix with some lemon juice, some apple cider vinegar, maybe a little more water as well, and blend, and that's it. And so here is the heart healthy bean-free chili with cashew sour cream. And I always try to throw on a handful of sprouts to everything that I eat, because sprouts are so loaded with nutrition. You know, you mentioned eating more fruits and vegetables, and honestly, sprouts are some of the most nutrient-packed food pound for pound that exists, because one little sprout has the micronutrient potential of this baby plant. So that's pretty amazing, because you're eating a lot at a time. And you can easily do sprouts at home, no problem. So it's really great, especially for the winter, to sort of up your nutrition when there's not a lot of local foods. And this entire dish is full of fiber, which is so important, just as water is important. We are not eating enough fiber, unfortunately. There's some study that came out that said 90%, I mean, that's an astronomical amount. 90% of people are fiber deficient. And so what does that cause? Well, digestive problems, obviously, microbiota disharmony, or just really, fiber affects our entire body. Fiber affects our gut health, our microbiome, because the probiotics eat the fiber that we eat. It becomes their food, and then they create postbiotics, which is the short-chain fatty acids that their bodies produce. So essentially, fiber is key. So is water to overall health and heart health. I mean, overall, every part of the body health, really important. I'm going to go rinse that thing out, and I'll be right back.
That looks so fabulous. I have to say, I got the recipe book a little bit early and had to try the cashew sour cream. Tried it. It's absolutely fabulous, guys. I mean, it's now going to be the sour cream that is in our house all the time. I was never a big sour cream eater, but this is absolutely incredible. So I have to say, go for the recipe, try it. It took me like no time at all. I just soaked the cashews overnight, whipped it up in the Vitamix with a little bit of lemon juice, apple cider vinegar, tad of water, and it is so good. Can't wait to have it tonight. So enjoy. The other thing I want to talk about, you said a little bit, Danielle, about fiber. And fiber is so important for our body to help with those HDL levels. I mean, it's heart healthy month, so we want to talk about HDL. The other thing that's going to really help other than fiber is exercise. Those are the two things we really need to work on in order to get those HDLs up and help our bodies be much healthier and help our hearts be much healthier. So the bean-free chili you just saw, which is incredible, with walnuts, which are great for our heart and lungs, also for our brain, like Danielle said, little brains, all of the powders that she had that are incredible, and again, vegetables. So going back to our pyramid of integrated nutrition that we use in healthy eating and weight loss, we talk a lot about water, we talk a lot about vegetables, plant protein, and healthy fats. So I'm going to ask Danielle, as soon as she comes back to us, to talk a little bit more about those healthy fats. We talked about our omega-3s and 6s, but what about the healthy fats, and what is in all of our vegetables that instead of having a animal protein that we can use as a vegetable protein? Okay?
All right, I'm just getting ready here, setting up the next recipe. Yeah, heart healthy fats that are also, sorry, can you repeat the question? Was it the protein that's in?
Let's talk about both protein, because protein is a big thing we talk about, and we're trying to eat more animal, stay away from more animal protein and eat more vegetable, nuts, especially with the raw diet. So how can we incorporate people that are like, I need to have my animal protein to feel like I'm getting protein? So do you want to touch on that?
Absolutely. Actually, it's super important. A lot of people ask, where do you get your protein if you're plant-based? Well, I've been plant-based. I haven't eaten any animal products for over 14 years. I was a rock climber for 7 or 8 years. I hike often. I'm super fit. I run. I have muscle. You know, I'm strong. I'm healthy. I'm vibrant. The question that we need to be asking ourselves is not where do you get your protein? It's where do you get your fiber? So the funny thing about protein is that actually all plants have protein, because protein is a synthesis of amino acids. So every plant has amino acids. I mean, do you ask the ox, the elephant, the gorilla, where do you get your protein? These are the strongest animals in the world, and they eat mostly grass. So the grass is where they get their protein. And how they do that is they get all these amino acids and they bring them together, and that is what creates the protein. So because plant foods have all the amino acids, as long as you're getting a variety, you will get plenty of protein. You will never be deficient in protein if you get a variety. Now, if you're only eating potatoes and carrots, then maybe you're not getting enough protein. But if you eat a variety of arugula, kale, cabbage, you know, pineapple, goji berries, hemp hearts, chia seeds, you will not be deficient in protein at all.
So Danielle, before you start, well, go ahead and start the recipe, but before you explain everything, what you basically said is something that we also talk about in the healthy eating weight loss coaching course, and that's eating the colors of the rainbow. Oh, right? We don't want to just stay with white potatoes, but white is not bad. So many people say I'm not eating white, but there's so many nutrients and phytonutrients in white. So it's so important to eat the colors of the rainbow. Do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually fully agree. Like a cauliflower, just because it's white, it still has tons of nutrition. And that's exactly why. It's because every color is representative of certain types of phytonutrients. And scientists have actually discovered over 1,000 phytonutrients, and they still have more to discover. And every color of the rainbow, every nuance of a color has a different phytonutrient. So for example, anthocyanin, that's a phytonutrient that comes from purple and blue colored foods. So like a purple potato, a red cabbage, purple cabbage, you know, mulberries, acai, red grapes. These things are full of the anthocyanin, and that particular phytonutrient has an effect on the body. Eating the rainbow, and you're eating all those different colors, you are inevitably getting all those different phytonutrients, and therefore you're getting all the nutrition that your body needs to thrive. And you mentioned color, and it's funny because I have some kimchi that I'm fermenting right now in the house, and it's kimchi using purple cabbage. That would have been perfect on the bean-free chili, actually, because it would provide a sour, a salty, an umami flavor, and color in the purple being the anthocyanin. So yeah, try to get as much of a variety of fruits and vegetables as possible. And with that, a variety of color, super important.
And I know that you love lycopene, so do you want to touch a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I mentioned lycopene is rich in tomatoes, but it's actually rich in all red colored foods. So like watermelon, red peppers, goji berries are high in lycopene as an example. And this is actually one of the things that when you cook a tomato, the lycopene becomes more bioavailable. So you're able to absorb it better. And so that can be said that tomatoes, raw and cooked, are both good for the heart. But if you're eating 100% cooked food, you're missing out on a lot of vitamins that are heat sensitive and a lot of enzymes that only exist in raw foods. So it's really recommended that you eat a lot of raw fruits and vegetables, as well as the cooked food if you do. And I'm a proponent of eating more raw than cooked, but you know, that's something that you'll have to come learn one day. So if you're not fully, you know, into the raw food, I promise you, I will change your mind, including, you know, try this beef chili and you will be wowed. I promise. I'm just setting up here. Okay. I think I'm ready. we're switching to desserts. So basically desserts. A lot of people who are watching their weight, watching their health, watching their, everything in all aspects of health, including their heart health, will probably want to stay away from refined flours, refined sugars, all that kind of stuff, which typically exists in desserts. This recipe that I'm going to make for you is a raw dessert, and it has none of those things and only good stuff. And actually, there was a tip, that I had. Yes, okay. I'm going to make a brownie base. Now, I call this like a double chocolate mousse cake because the base has chocolate and the cream has chocolate. Chocolate is heart healthy. It's also very high in magnesium. It's a vasodilator. So it's anti-inflammatory, and it opens up your blood vessels, literally. So it can actually help prevent and help atherosclerosis, which is when the arteries get hardened, because it helps open those blood vessels. It's also a heart opener, both like literally and metaphorically. I could actually talk for hours about cacao because we grow it here. Oh, and I think there's one on the table, which is crazy. Didn't plan that. Here it is. So this is a cacao pod, and this is actually where all chocolate comes from. This one's dry and hard, it's old, but if you cut it open and you see on the inside, it's the cacao seeds, and the cacao seeds is what all chocolate is made from. It's also always fermented before it's made. So even if it's raw chocolate or traditional chocolate, it all comes from that pod. So cacao is actually quite a good thing, but we don't want to confuse chocolate with candy bar, because a lot of the candy bars out there are not real chocolate, or maybe there's a tiny little bit of real chocolate and then a lot of other fillers. So very distinct between those two things. Even dark chocolate is highly processed and roasted at a very high temperature. So if you're looking to include more chocolate or cacao into your diet, try looking for raw cacao. And then obviously make sure that there's nothing else added besides the cacao. So it could be cacao butter, cacao powder, maybe a sweetener of sort and a flavoring, which would be natural, of course, like pieces of ginger. But yes, very important to just start eating cacao. And I mean, it makes us happy. I could talk more. Serotonin and dopamine, it helps those neurotransmitters which are responsible for mood. So actually the idea that chocolate is associated with love and chocolate is associated with euphoric feelings, it's not a coincidence. It's actually real, like it's real science. It includes something called PEA, phenylethylalanine, which is called the love molecule. So pretty powerful stuff. Just make sure you look at exactly the cacao that you're getting, that it's not full of fillers. So this recipe has very, very simple dates. Okay, dates are a very excellent way to include some sugar in the diet, but not too much. They're also very high in fiber. So because of this, the fiber slows down the release of the sugars in the blood. So they're more tolerated by people who have sugar sensitivities. Okay, some more walnuts, and we all know how those are good for us. Okay, and then cacao, of course. And just to balance it out, to make it taste a little bit, I don't want it to taste salty, but I want to put a pinch of salt. And this is actually part of the idea of flavor balancing. We're not adding salt to make it salty. We're adding salt to enhance the flavor of the sweet. Okay, so that's a tip that you can basically do in all your desserts, is add a pinch of salt. And when I mean a pinch, I mean a teeny tiny pinch. And how about just a little bit of coconut oil? So coconut oil is considered heart healthy. It is a saturated fat, but it is a medium chain fatty acid. So our bodies are able to use it quicker. You can totally skip the coconut oil in this recipe if you're on no oil, that's no problem. And you could even try adding coconut flakes. So these coconut flakes could be used instead of the coconut oil if you wanted. And like I said, this recipe is just a base. You can add different things. Try some orange zest. If you like chocolate and orange together, orange zest in this recipe is amazing. So I'm gonna process this, and I'm also gonna show you a real quick tip before I do that, and then I'm gonna press it into this pan. So this is a mini Springform pan. Springform because the back that comes out of it. If you purchase it in the store, it comes together. When you open it, you'll see that the lip is facing up. That's actually not how it should be used. I don't know why they do that. It should be used this way, because when you go to stick your knife to get the cake out, you can just stick it in and lift it off. If it's this way, there's a lip there and you can't get under the cake and lift it up. So take your Springform Pan, make sure it's flipped this way, and then just close it in so it's in its space. And then a pro tip to be able to lift your cake off really easily is just sprinkle the bottom with a few coconut flakes. And that just makes it so the coconut flakes provide that a little bit of a barrier, and it can just come off really easily. Otherwise it gets stuck down and it's harder to get off. Okay, so I'm gonna process this and I'm gonna push this all down, and as I do that, Dee, take it away.
Wow, that looks so good. Isn't it so exciting that you can have dessert and it's really healthy for you? Oh my goodness, and adding fruits and vegetables to dessert and getting all of those nutrients that we need. So it is Heart Health Month, and so I want to talk a little bit more about all of the things that we should be eating for heart health. So earlier, Danielle, you talked about lycopene, right? So what if people are allergic or can't eat tomatoes? What are some other sources of lycopene? Can you want to just kind of, I know that you love lycopene, so what are some other ways people can get lycopene into their diets?
Other ways that people get lycopene is anything that has any red colored fruits or vegetables. So that would be the way, yeah. Some people I missed what you said because of the loudness of the food processor, but that some people are allergic to tomatoes, or some people are allergic to the nightshade family. Sometimes these foods can cause more inflammation in the body, but that's usually only if you already have problems. So if you're healthy and you're not allergic to tomatoes, then you should be able to consume nightshades, again, as part of a healthy variety. Something too to say about a lot of food sensitivities. Now, an allergy is an allergy. An allergy usually is something that is lifelong, whereas a food sensitivity is usually something that's gained over a period of a lifetime. And can usually be reversed. And it's usually because you've been eating too much of that thing. So it's funny because what are people allergic to in North America? Wheat. How much bread do we eat? Too much. How much pasta do we eat? Too much, right? So it's funny that eventually the body is actually trying to tell you something by saying, you've had too much of that food. I'm gonna now show symptoms so that you learn your lesson. So that's pretty interesting fact, I think.
Great, thank you. And we'll let you go ahead and blend that up. The other thing to say about lycopene, and one of the things that you'll learn in the Healthy Eating and Weight Loss Coaching course, is watermelon. It's really surprising because watermelon is so good for you, but because of where it is as amount of sugar, some people are really afraid of it. So that is another great source. I mean, with us being in winter right now in Canada, watermelon is not something we grab. But if you do have issues with tomatoes, lycopene in watermelon, fabulous. And watermelon is one of those fruits that are so full of nutrients, including water. Got so much water in it. So, I mean, if you're having a hard time getting the water that you need, and again, when we're talking about the pyramid, water's number one. So if you're having a hard time getting that water that you need, then go ahead. The watermelon, you're getting your lycopene and you're getting your water, which is absolutely fabulous. Another thing we like to talk about is the wheel of integrated nutrition in the Healthy Eating and Weight Loss course. And it's all about sitting down, enjoying your food, not rushing, not eating quickly, enjoying everything that you get. That's one of the aspects of it. Another is eating more organic, or from 100 miles versus just going to the grocery store and picking it up, which is a little more difficult, especially in the pandemic right now, but something we kind of need to think about. And then also unprocessed. And everything here that Danielle's talking about is unprocessed. So going from unprocessed to highly processed food is also going to help with inflammation. And I know, Danielle, you want to talk about inflammation, LDL and HDL. So I'll let you go ahead.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, so basically the LDL cholesterol is your low density lipoic acid. Hopefully I said that right. And then versus the HDL, which is high density. So the LDL cholesterol is basically known to cause the issues. When we say high cholesterol, we're talking about the LDL cholesterol. HDL cholesterol actually does the opposite. It's more anti-inflammatory, and it can help your overall and lower your overall cholesterol. So plants, including walnuts, avocado, which I'm going to make here, and coconut are high in, or are higher in, no, have the ability to raise your HDL cholesterol and lower your LDL cholesterol. So those are awesome foods to include in your diet as a heart healthy diet.
Okay, right. You whip that up. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think I'm ready.
Okay, you go.
Can you read off the recipe really quickly, just so I make sure I'm not going to miss anything? This is for the chocolate avocado mousse. Now,
sounds so good.
Yes, what is it?
So we need 2 ripe avocados, 1/4 cup of cacao powder, 3 tablespoons, or sorry, 3 of fresh coconut milk, 1 tablespoon of maple syrup, 1 tablespoon of coconut oil, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract pure, and a pinch of pink sea salt.
Thank you, because I forgot one of the ingredients. All right, perfect. Okay, so this recipe can be eaten on its own, right? Just as like a snack. You can add it to granola, but basically it's taking the avocado and looking at it in a different way. Actually, in Brazil, they eat a lot of their avocado sweet. So they don't do guacamole. That's weird to them. They like it with, maybe some sugar. We're just gonna add a tiny little bit of maple syrup to sweeten it. But again, that's gonna be your preference if you want it sweeter or if you want less sweetness. Let me know. Yes, so avocado is heart healthy. It's very, very good for children, for actually people of all ages. It's high in oleic acid, which has been shown in many studies to be anti-inflammatory. So again, this is like the most important thing when we're talking about food and heart health and overall body health, is eating anti-inflammatory foods, which essentially are foods high in antioxidants. And the reason that they are anti-inflammatory is what happens when you eat foods rich in antioxidants is those antioxidants. Okay, so there's this concept of something called free radicals, and free radicals are basically the electrons in the body that are floating all around, and they are damaging because they're unpaired. They want to be paired. So what they're doing is they're going around and they're stealing the pair from all the others, and then it's just damaging all stuff, all the things inside the body. So when you eat antioxidant food, it basically repairs those missing electrons. And so therefore it can scavenge or help out, renew, and get rid of free radicals. And free radicals damage all parts of the body, and they're also inflammatory by nature. So antioxidant foods are anti-inflammatory, and they will reduce free radicals in the body, and therefore your cells will stay younger longer, and actually your whole body and everything about you will stay younger longer. So people who are eating a very high anti-inflammatory diet, which is high in antioxidants, which is basically, like we said, the rainbow, right? Phytonutrients are all antioxidants. All those colors are antioxidants. And this is what's going to provide an anti-inflammatory diet for the body. So, avocado. I actually personally love avocado salty. Yeah. With my favorite recipe is like a pico de gallo. So that's tomato, onion, this is my style pico de gallo. Tomato, onion, cilantro, salt, and lots of avocado. Now, this dessert actually deserves to be, I mean, you could really eat it anyway, but in the cake form, we need to freeze it in between. Now, obviously, you're not all going to be here for a few hours while the cake freezes, so I've pre-made it. It's in the freezer right now. I'll bring it out to show you what it looks like at the end. But as I mentioned, if you didn't want to make it this way, I'm going to show you another trick in how to make this recipe without having to go to the trouble of making it into a cake. Okay. So, avocado, coconut milk, and this is actually fresh pressed coconut milk from the coconuts that are growing right behind me. Yeah. So delicious. Cacao, as I mentioned, we know all about that and why that's good for us. I want to add a little pinch of vanilla. This is vanilla powder. Vanilla powder is actually very high in antioxidants as well. If you don't have vanilla powder, you can use vanilla essence. Vanilla extract is okay, but it does have that alcohol. Sometimes it has glycerin. So just look and see what else it has in it in order to get the best vanilla. Some coconut oil. Again, this is optional. It adds a bit of creaminess to the mousse. And then again, this is another optional thing that I didn't write in the recipe, but I'm going to do it. The cashew sour cream that we made, I'm going to add this to this, and it's going to be amazing because it's just going to add more creaminess. Now, you don't have to do this if you didn't make this ahead of time, and I'm not even measuring it because it doesn't matter how much. I can just add a little bit, I can add a lot, it doesn't really matter. It'll make it delicious. Yeah, and I would love to teach you as well more about flavor balancing and how to balance out flavors if it's too salty or too sweet or too fatty, like what to do. We're going to add a little bit of that syrup. Reusing, you know, we're in the tropics, we're on an island, and we don't have everything that we potentially could have if we were living in a city. So if I find one of these, I usually rinse it out, wash it out, and reuse it in my kitchen as, you know, for the maple syrup. Okay, let's try this and see how it goes. I think, oh, of course you want to add that pinch of salt. We'll see how this goes. So if you have a high-speed blender, good to use the tamper because it probably won't mix. It probably won't blend very, very well unless I use this. So while I do this, if Dee, you have some more things to say, maybe mute me so then you can't hear the blending.
Okay, yeah. I'm on. You go ahead and blend with your Vitamix. All right, so it's so exciting to be able to eat dessert and have so many antioxidants. You talked about avocado and how important it is. And I mean, I got to tell you, those avocados are about the biggest avocados I've seen. I wish that we had avocados like that in Canada because I love avocados. They're so good for you. But a few people have been asking in the chat, and I've just been looking through about the healthy eating and weight loss coach course. And I've got to tell you, I'm so excited about this. I love this course. I teach all of the, as a pro trainer, teach all the courses with canfitpro. Healthy eating, weight loss coaching is my baby. I love it. And right now we are offering until February 17th, 50% off the courses. And they're virtual. So you can be at home, take the course. Some of the courses that are on are 1 day, some are 2 days, some are over a different amount of time. But it's a 10-hour course. Like I said, right now until February 17th, you can get it 50% off to jump on. I've got one in 2 weeks coming up. You can join me on the 27th and 28th if you would like to take a course then for the healthy eating and weight loss. I would love to see you. And if you do have any questions, please put message or go into the message, ask me questions. You can leave me any kind of comment in there and I can add you to my private Facebook group as well, our Facebook group, and I can be able to give you more information on anything that we're talking about now, or as well any of the courses that are coming up. In the chat, you've got my courses coming up as well as my course ID, and all you have to do is enter HEART, H-E-A-R-T, all capitals, to get 50% off. So go ahead and do it if you're interested in the course. And I have to tell you, I've been teaching it for 5 years, and like I said, I love it. I think it's a fabulous course, and all of the students that I've had that are still talking to me now about how incredible it was for them to take the course. It gives you so much information, and not even if you're just going to be using it for yourself, but if you're going to be using it with clients and students, great information. So with that being said, I think we've been blended, and let's get back to Danielle.
Unmute. Okay, I'm gonna go grab the final dish to show you. Actually, no, let me just show you. Okay, so I've got this. If you were wondering, I don't know if you saw, but I went inside. I wanted to flavor balance it because when I tasted it, I didn't quite have the recommended maple syrup amount. Stuff goes missing in this place all the time. So I added coconut nectar. This is just another sweetener. Coconut nectar is actually low on the glycemic index, and it's considered raw. So if there are people out there that are wanting to do 100% raw, coconut nectar is the way to go. It's also very sustainable because it's used from the coconut palm, the flower of the coconut palm, and coconuts are abundant all over the world. So I just added a little bit more. Alternatively, you could completely swap out the maple syrup for coconut nectar and vice versa. Okay, let me just taste it one more time really quickly. I'm gonna eat all this, so don't worry. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. You'd be so surprised that this is avocado. It's incredible. Okay, it's very liquidy. I wanna show you what I did with the crust here. So the crust, it's like in there. I pressed it down evenly with the back of my hand. And I'll just show you the texture that it starts with. So you're probably making it at home, but it starts really quite crumbly. And that's fine because when you grab it and you squeeze it, you'll know it's ready when it holds its shape. Okay, so that's ready. It's ready to go. It holds its shape. And then we're going to pour the avocado mousse on top of the cake. It's literally as simple as that. Okay, so it's sitting there. You can tap it down to get out the bubbles. And then at this point, I'd put it in the freezer. And I'm going to go show you what mine looked like. But if you don't have a Springform pan and you don't want to bother with the cake, put it in a jar. Okay. This is also really great frozen. It kind of is like an ice cream, like a chocolate ice cream. So you can put it in a jar. It doesn't look so appetizing, but I promise you it's delicious. Okay. And you can take some of that brownie base, you can put on top as a crumble topping. Like that. Okay. So this is one way, right? We got our mason jar. You just changed the name, right? Mason jar chocolate mousse cake. Mason jar chocolate mousse cake. Or you can have an actual chocolate cake, or you use the Springform pan. Now, the way to do this, like I mentioned, you have to freeze it because obviously the mousse is very liquidy. So you freeze it and then you can pop it out and serve it frozen. And as it thaws, it will start to get mushy again, but it's meant to be eaten frozen. So saying that, Dee, if you have anything else to say, I'm gonna go grab that frozen one.
Go ahead, grab the frozen one, and then we only have about 10 minutes left. So I want to be able to answer some questions or be able to give you the questions to answer. So while you're grabbing the frozen one, let's talk about, there will be a CEC quiz available. It'll be in your portal tomorrow. So go ahead and jump on that. Plus, we also have 3 amazing events with canfitpro. We have coming up in March, Wednesday, March 3rd, our first event of the year. I'm so excited. Guess who's going to be presenting? Danielle's going to be presenting, yes, with 13 different sessions, including Danielle, who will be creating raw food recipes for gut health. So make sure you check that out. Then on March 8th, we have our Women Who Influence event, which is incredible. These women are fabulous. Please join us for that. And it's been a long time coming, but March 12th and 13th is a Franco event for our French-speaking members. This is going to be so exciting for all of our French-speaking members. So those are the events that are coming up. And while you're showing us the cake, and then we'll answer some questions, okay?
Perfect. Yeah, I'm just ready. I just wanted to show you what it looks like when it's frozen. So hopefully it doesn't slide off the plate. This is the chocolate avocado mousse pie, exactly how I made it for you. I put a little bit of chocolate drizzle on it, but yeah, essentially we're gonna cut it, right? Nice little slice. Perfect. Yum.
Oh, my mouth's watering. I so wish I could be tasting that right now. You're making us all so jealous.
I forgot. I did mention when I made this base, but when I actually made it originally, I put orange zest in it because I love chocolate and orange.
Oh,
so
yeah.
That's a great tip, is adding the orange zest actually to either. You could add it to the mousse, or you could add, well, I'd recommend adding it to the base. That'd be better. But yeah, I added it to the base and it's really good. I can taste that orange in it.
Oh, my mouth's watering. Okay, yeah. Let's get to some questions. Okay. All right. So from Helen, we have a walnut allergy in our household. Which other nut would you recommend to replace?
Great question. Yeah. You know, I've had a lot of people come through my courses that have nut allergies, and I'll say one thing. One woman, okay, nut allergy her whole life, in her 40s, she decided, well, after learning about this enzyme inhibitor and learning that, you know, if you soak your nuts and seeds, you release that enzyme inhibitor. So we started doing that in the course, and she's like, I think I want to try walnut again. I'm like, well, the hospital's next door, so if you want to, go ahead. But anyways, because of that, she started eating walnuts again, and apparently she's not allergic to walnuts. I'm not saying that you should eat a walnut, but I'm just saying that maybe the allergy is not the walnut, it's the enzyme inhibitor. Okay, just saying that. Of course, if you're gonna change anything or do anything like that, please consult with your nutrition provider or your doctor. But if you really do want to have a different nut, I recommend pecan. If pecan is also a problem, because typically tree nuts are lumped together, you could use sunflower seeds, or you could even do, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds. That would be an excellent replacement. So either of those.
All right. So Ethar asked, I've been a vegan, vegetarian, I've been in vegan or vegetarian diets, and I have a problem with obtaining muscle mass. Any ideas other than beans?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, beans definitely pound for pound have a lot of protein, but there's also a lot of protein in hemp hearts, some fruits. So even like goji berries as an example, nuts and seeds. So pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds. Keep in mind though, that if you do start eating more nuts, they are also high in fat. So nuts as a protein substitute aren't the best substitute, but they do provide protein. So small amounts of more nuts in the diet. And then, you know, even something like if you're not holding muscle mass like in like quite amount, you might want to check with your gut health and sort of like your gut microbiome, and maybe even the hydrochloric acid amount in your stomach, making sure that you're absorbing and you're using the nutrition that you're eating, because it could be a symptom of an underlying problem. But again, I'm not a doctor, so you'd have to check with your doctor upon that. But sometimes these things can be symptoms of underlying problems. Hopefully that helps you.
Okay, Shelly wants to know, I love Himalayan salt over table salt. Do you have any thoughts on kosher salt?
Yeah, I mean, kosher salt's great. It's typically going to be like a sea salt, and sea salt typically will also be high in minerals. So both are great. I personally use the pink Himalayan salt because it's even higher in minerals, but either or will be good.
Okay. Christine wants to know, wonder why you're not cooking the food. Christine just did a hot detox where the food was cooked and or warmed. It seemed easier for the gut and easier to assimilate.
Yeah, great question. Yeah, some people say that raw food is harder to digest because of the cool nature. Well, I mean, it depends. This recipe, actually in the recipe that you've been sent, it says to warm the bean-free chili in the dehydrator. But I could go on for a very long time about raw food and cooked food. And the idea behind raw food and the reason that we're not cooking it is because several vitamins, especially vitamin C and vitamin B, are heat sensitive. So actually, as soon as you cook the food, you destroy those vitamins. And so vitamin C, as we know, is really important for our immunity and really important for, you know, the healthy functioning of our eyes and our skin and basically overall health. So, but saying that, hot food or warm foods can provide protein, carbohydrates, and minerals, but they don't, cooked food doesn't contain enzymes, which is also, again, important for the proper digestion. Yeah, so basically that's the reason. Is there are many recipes out there that are cooked. So like a bean-free or like a chili, like a traditional chili would be cooked quite a bit, etc. And then there is benefit in that food. There's different kinds of nutrients in that food. So protein, as I mentioned, carbohydrates and minerals will always be there even after they're cooked, whereas the vitamins and enzymes are not there. And so we're trying to use unique ways to make delicious food that isn't just salads, right? We all know we need to eat more fruits and vegetables, and we all probably should eat more raw fruits and vegetables, but do we always want to eat a salad? No, especially if it's -20. I don't want to eat a salad. So what I'll do is I'll process my vegetables in a way that reminds me of a cooked comfort food like chili. So this chili, as an example, if you look closely, I mean, it looks like a cooked chili and it's not cold. None of this was refrigerated ahead of time. So, I mean, well, they're refrigerated for a period of time, but it's not a cold dish. It's not like a cold salad, and it can be warmed. But the concept is that we're keeping as much nutrition as possible.
Great, so that ties in really good with the question from Rosemary. Do you heat the dish before serving it or do you serve it cold?
Either or. It's so delicious both ways. So after you make it, you can plate it as I did and put that whole bowl into the dehydrator if you have one. You know, alternatively, you could do like a bain-marie. In my style, I wouldn't heat it, like I wouldn't put it in a pan and like cook it because of the reasons that I mentioned before. But if you really wanted to, of course you could, no problem.
Great. Should you rinse walnuts? Faye wants to know before eating them.
Yes, I absolutely agree. Yes, I think you should. And the reason that is, as I mentioned before, there's something called an enzyme inhibitor that's actually on all nuts and seeds. All nuts and seeds should be rinsed, actually soaked for a period of time, and then rinsed and re-dehydrated. Because once you soak a nut, then it's wet, right? And then how do you keep it from going bad? You have to eat it right away. So what I do is I buy like my nuts and seeds, I soak them all in one batch, in like a big, huge pot, and then I dehydrate them all in one batch, and then I store them after that. So they're activated and they are ready to be eaten.
Great. And I'm going to ask a question because this is something we talk about in the healthy eating and weight loss coaching course. Keeping your nuts and seeds before soaking them, do you keep everything in the fridge? That's something that we talk about when people think that I'm crazy, but keeping everything in the fridge so it doesn't become inflammatory and in our diet.
Yeah, actually that's extremely important. People don't realize that rancidity is widespread in the food chain. And unfortunately, a rancid food, essentially what that is it's usually a food high in oil content. And that oil content is susceptible to heat, light, and air. So if you have a nut or seed, let's go for flax as an example, and you have ground flax, and it's been exposed to the heat, the light, the air, or even just room temperature if it's a warm place, it can go rancid. Rancid foods are actually pro-inflammatory and they can cause a whole host of problems in the body. They're actually toxic. And so many people that I know do not store their nuts and seeds properly. So yes, highly recommend. The reason I put them in the freezer is because there's no space in my fridge usually. And I don't have a lot of frozen foods except for berries in my freezer. So they go in my freezer for space, but fridge is absolutely fine. And luckily my parents do that now as well. So every time I go back to my folks' house, I know that I can go in the fridge and there's the hemp parts, there's the walnuts, there's the almonds. So yeah, it's super important to store your nuts and seeds in the freezer or fridge. Fridge is best.
Great. Okay. You spoke on anti-inflammatory. So I just wanted to go back on that for just a minute. Why is an anti-inflammatory diet so important? We've talked about what's inflammatory, what's inflammatory. Why is that inflammatory diet so important?
It's so important because it affects every single system of the body. It affects our cardiovascular system. It affects our hormones. It affects our circulatory system. It affects our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So it's absolutely important. I mean, we chronically, as a culture, we are chronically inflamed, and inflammation is the root of all disease. All disease that exists, the body is inflamed in one area or the other. It depends on who you are, because inflammation can show up differently in different bodies depending on who you are. But if there's a sign of chronic inflammation, the body, it's totally different from acute inflammation, which helps the body. Like if after a workout, if you work out really hard, or you're building your muscle and you're inflamed because of that, that's acute inflammation that actually helps the body build tissues and helps the body recover. But chronic inflammation is where the body doesn't really know what to do anymore, and it's basically the root of all disease. Yeah, so that's why.
And I was just gonna say, the other thing with the anti-inflammatory diet, it can help reduce LDL cholesterol, right?
Exactly.
I mean, that's one of the major reasons we want to be on that, as well as blood pressure. And when we're talking about heart health, especially in this month, I mean, those are the things anti-inflammatory diets can help reduce. So I think that's really important to talk about.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. And it's going to help so much more than that too. It'll help every system of the body. So yeah, helping with blood pressure because it will decrease blood pressure and decrease LDL cholesterol.
Excellent. Well, this has been absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much, Danielle. Thank you for sharing all of these recipes. Oh, I have one more quick one. How long can the cashew, sorry, I didn't say cauliflower. Can the cashew butter stay in the fridge?
Cashew sour cream can probably last 4 to 5 days in the fridge.
Okay.
And as you saw, like it's actually an incredible recipe because it's the base of like 100 other recipes.
That's what you were saying. Yeah.
Yeah, you can make a tzatziki. You can make a Caesar salad dressing. You can make a lemon cheesecake with that same base, okay, just by adding different things. If you want to make a lemon cheesecake, take that cashew sour cream, add some lemon zest, some maple syrup, boom, lemon cheesecake. If you want to make it a tzatziki, add some fresh dill, some cucumber, a pinch of salt, boom, tzatziki. So it's pretty amazing as a base recipe for so many others.
Thank you so much. We've gone over time, but you have been absolutely incredible. Thank you. As fitness professionals, we can help our communities thrive and stay healthy with all of the information that you have given us today. Thank you so much. Happy Heart Health February, and I can't wait to see you on March 3rd.
Yay, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. It's an incredible opportunity, and I'm very blessed. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for attending. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat or message me, and I will get back to you. Thank you.